also the software inside it is the old software from the Golf, which, believe me, is a good thing. Here's a brain muddle for you. Coupes. You know, the fancy, low-slung, two-door things. The popularity of those have plummeted over the last decade, whereas sales of SUVs have skyrocketed. So, what if you're the sort of person that would quite like to buy a coupe, but actually would quite like the fashionable side of things of having an SUV? Well, hello VW Taigo. Now, of course, the Taigo isn't exactly the first coupe SUV on the market, far from it. It's a trend that started way back in the mid-2000s with the BMW X6, and now, well, everyone's at it. Volkswagen is doubling down its efforts too, using 2022 to launch not one, but two coupe SUVs. So we'll be driving the pure electric ID.5 very soon. So if you like, subscribe and switch notifications on, then you'll be the first to see it, you lucky things. But for now, the Taigo. Now, odds are, if you're looking in this area of the market, you've probably had a little look at the T-Cross, which is VW's smallest SUV, which is essentially a crossover Polo, if you will. So this is the coupe version of that. So this is the coupe version of the SUV version of the Polo. This is a coupe SUV Polo. Does that make sense? Which isn't a bad thing, really, because I think it looks quite dynamic, don't you think? Especially if you compare it to the T-Cross. I mean, this isn't even the R-Line. When you look at that, it's got a whiff of the fake GTIs about it, if that makes sense. But if you'll indulge me for a second, I think this green paint is money well spent.
It's 900 quid, Nick.
900 quid? Maybe not. Look, fundamentally, that's down to you. If you want to spend 900 quid on green paint, then you do you. But in terms of looks, I mean, when you look at this car nose on, it looks exactly like the T-Cross. But it's only really when you come around the back, follow me. When you come around the back, that's when you really notice the difference, because it's got some nice curves and swoops, hasn't it? It's not bad looking from the back. And in the boot, that's a pretty decent size too. It's actually only up to the parcel shelf 10 litres smaller than the T-Cross. It's only really when you start loading things all the way up to the windows that you'll really notice the difference because of the sloping roofline. But in terms of like day-to-day shopping and chucking stuff in, not too shabby. Fold the seats down 60-40 and you'll free up 1,222 litres of space, which again isn't far off the T-Cross. The boot floor sits flat against the load lip too, even if those seats don't completely go flat. On paper, it's pretty much the same space as you'd get in a Renault Arcana, arguably this car's closest rival. The Taigo is deceptively practical, so it is. Welcome to the rear seats, and actually it's not too horrendous like legroom wise. That's set up for my driving position. I'm 5'6", it's not too bad, and plus you've got space there, you can put your feet under the seat in front. In terms of headroom, if you're taller, it's not going to be great for you. Because of the sloping roofline, you're going to have more headroom in a regular SUV rather than this car. So no, it's not designed for taller people or people that like to wear their hair up high. But for me, it's fine. Storage is reasonable. The glove box and the central armrest are both a decent size, while the door pockets will hold bottles and there's a tray to put your phone ahead of the gear lever. The manual handbrake's a novelty, especially in cars with an automatic gearbox like ours. Okay, I'll tell you what we will do. I will tell you a little bit about the interior first of all, and then I'll tell you what it's like to drive, right? Because actually, when it comes to the interior, a lot of the stuff that we've already said about the T-Cross in the past is still pretty relevant here. But shall we start with my complaints? Okay then, complaint number one. Hard plastics. There's hard, scratchy plastics like everywhere. And if you look at cars like the Renault Captur or the Renault Arcana, they've all got like nice squidgy bits. So it just doesn't feel as premium in here as it should. Complaint number two, cup holders. They are the smallest cup holders ever. I mean, my gym bottle doesn't fit in there. This is my coffee cup. It just doesn't fit. Maybe if you only order espressos, that's probably the way to go if you want to buy yourself one of these. Complaint number three, last but not least, touchy, slidey, touch sensitive, close climate controls. Now VW doesn't seem to want to change its mind about this, but I'm going to say it. They do not work very well while you are driving. They are incredibly frustrating to use, and I just don't like them. Buttons, switches, knobs are always the way to go when it comes to any car. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. But tech-wise, I mean, it's all quite impressive. Every version gets digital dials and a touchscreen. Lovely. If you go for the basic life trim, then you get a smaller screen and basic display. But if you go for style or R-line, then you get this bigger display setup, which actually works quite lovely. I mean, you've only just got to slightly tap it and it knows everything that you want it to do. So that's all very nice. Oh, and also the software inside it is the old software from the Golf, which, believe me, is a good thing.
At the moment, there are 3 trims to choose from: Life, Style and R-Line. Entry-level cars get quite a lot of equipment for a reasonably low price. We're talking alloy wheels, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, plus those digital dials. Style brings sat-nav and matrix LED lights, very fancy, as well as multi-zone aircon. This is the car we'd recommend, actually. R-Line offers a racier take, as well as stuff like tinted windows and different seat fabric. As always, carbuyer.co.uk has everything you need to know.
Well, if you thought this Taigo looks like a T-Cross from the front and also on the inside, gosh blimey, it is basically exactly the same to drive as well. I mean, it's not as fun as a Ford Puma, but it's pretty agile. I mean, it takes corners quite nicely. There is still a little bit of fun behind it. I mean, of course, because of the higher ride height over the Polo, it does lean a bit in corners, but you can't get in one of these and expect it to be a sports car. You buy an actual coupe for that. But overall, it is pretty comfortable, even if you're in and around town or if you're at higher speeds or whatever. I mean, occasionally when you're driving on a less than perfect road, then it does get a little bit fidgety and it's not happy with it, especially on these bigger wheels.
Then there are the engines and gearboxes. There's a pair of 1 litres with either 94 brake horsepower or 108 brake horsepower, shared with the Polo and T-Cross, which are fine for everyday use, but they're not what you would call quick. 0 to 62 in our more powerful model takes 10.4 seconds, or 10.9 if you go for the DSG automatic gearbox.
But for £2,000 more, we wouldn't bother. I mean, we have the automatic gearbox here, and it's fine, it's very responsive, it's very smooth, it does all the things that you want it to do. I think I would just much prefer having a manual. And then you've got the engine options. There is a 1.5 that you can get, which has a little bit more oomph, but again, we wouldn't bother. I mean, that one comes with DSG automatic gearbox as standard. But whereas the 1 litre has got a nice little sort of thrum to the engine, the 1.5 can sound a bit blary at high revs, which is quite weird because I feel like I say that about a lot of cars. But look, if you want to get yourself a Taigo, take it nice and relaxed, nice and easy, and you are onto a winner. Leave the quick stuff to the bigger boys.
There's no electric or hybrid take on the Taigo, so no real appeal for company car drivers, but it's not a heavy car, and that should translate well to real-world fuel economy should you choose to run one as a private buyer. All the engines will do between 45 and 50 miles per gallon. This mid-range auto manages 47.9 miles per gallon on official cycles, with CO2 emissions of 134 grams per kilometre. Right, I think that's most boxes checked. Shall we sum things up with our deal makers and deal breakers? Oh, go on then. As we just touched on, if you're trying to extract decent real-world fuel economy, and let's be honest, who isn't these days, then the Taigo could save you some precious pennies. Despite that sloping roofline, the Taigo is actually pretty practical, both inside and in the boot. Most trims come well equipped with the mid-spec style representing the best value. We would stick with the 1 litre engines for the best balance of performance and economy. On the flip side, while perfectly adequate, those engines aren't really a selling point, and there's no hybrid or electric options. The auto box is about £2,000 more than the manual too.
Now you might either love or hate this whole coupe SUV phase, but like it or loathe it, this Taigo is a pretty decent effort. I mean, it's frugal, it's practical, it's reasonably nice to drive, and it runs the older VW software. So snap one up now while you can.
If you like this video, then why not watch our review of the Renault Arcana or our SUVs playlist. Thanks for watching.